Hello, everyone. We are going to be working on This Christmas Part 1. We are putting in music in BandLab of Chris Brown's cover of the song This Christmas. So let's get started. So to log in, let's go to edu.bandlab.com. That'll bring us to this page. Click on Login at the top right. And on the next page, we are not going to put our username or email or anything like that right now. We're going to go to the Google G in the bottom left. Click on that. And here is where you put in your first name dot last name at students dot Christina, so on and so on and so forth. Put all that stuff in there. Use a different account on mine. And then on yours, you're going to put in um, it will take you to the same page that it does when you log into Schoology. If you're not already logged into Schoology, it might just like drop you into right to the screen. But that's how you get there. So let's go into our class. You can choose either block 1, block 3, block 5, whatever class you have. I'll choose block 3 today. And we're looking for This Christmas Part 1. So here we are. Start assignment, teacher's assignment. So we're starting with 3 tracks. We have a harmony and melody track. We have our bassline track, and we have a R&B beat waves, a drum loop. I think the closest approximation I could find that works with what Chris Brown did in his cover of the song. So if we play this from the beginning, we hear just a little bit. Okay, so we're going to be adding notes into the melody and harmony track, and we're going to be adding notes into the bass track for this is part 1 of This Christmas. First thing, let's close our assignment brief over here on the right. Close that off so you have a little bit more room. Move this around a little bit. Okay, so to open up the MIDI editor, let's click on melody/harmony and then double click, and that'll bring up the MIDI editor. Or you can just simply single click on it so that you have a white outline around it, and then click on MIDI editor at the bottom left. Okay, we have our first 3 notes in here. So that's a good start. We need this to be up higher on our screen. So I'm going to go to the far right side to the scroll bar, and I'm going to scroll down so that these notes are towards the top of this little window down here. All the notes we're going to be adding for part 1 are going to be in this area over here. So we need to have that extra space. So our next note, we're going to skip 1 block here, go to 1.3, and this will be down 2 blocks. Next, we're going to go down 1, 2, 3 blocks down. And we're going to leave a blank space and then actually we're going to do 2 spaces, and then we're going to go up 1 block at bar 2. Next, we're going to skip a block and go down 1 block at 2.2. Actually, that we're going to skip a block and go to 2.3. And then the very next block is down 2 more blocks. And let's add 1 more note at the end there at 2.4. I'll take you through that whole process one more time. So we start here, then we're going to skip 1 block, and at 1.3, we're going to go down 2 blocks. Then our very next block, we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, and then skip 2 blocks. Our next note is going to be at bar 2, and that's going to be up 1 block. On this is actually a black key, and it's on the dark gray line. Next, skip a block, and then go down 1. This is at bar 2.2. Next, skip a block, go to 2.3, down 2 blocks. The very next block over, down 2 blocks, and then repeat it. That's the outline for our melody. Now we're going to trim out some notes so they're going to be longer. So our first one here is between 1.3 and 1.4. Click on it, go to the far right side. We have our little arrows with the 2 lines in the middle, and trim that out to bar 2. So it's a longer note now. And we're going to trim out this very last note, the one at 2.4. Go to the right side and trim it all the way to bar 4. It's a really long note. Okay, so that is the melody and the harmony line. Our next part is the bass track. So let's go to that one. Okay, so we're going to double click on our blue track, the bass track. And we have our first note here. Before we do anything else, we are going to move this note up. So instead of being on this note here on the piano, we're going to line it up with this top of the 3 black notes here. It's our B flat. So we're going to click this up and drag it up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now it's 5 notes up. Now we do need some more room underneath here. So we're going to go to the far right, grab that scroll wheel and pull down, or scroll bar and pull down, so that we have room over here for all of our next couple of notes. 1.3 is our next note, and it's going to be down 1 block. So like that. Now we're going to skip 1, 2, 3 blocks, and at bar 2, go down 2 blocks. Okay, now we're going to skip 1, 2, 3 blocks again. And at 2.3, we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This note's going to line up with C2 on the piano roll over here on your left side. Now we're going to skip another block and then go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a 2.4. So that's the outline of our the bass line. And now we're going to trim these notes out as well. So click on the note at 1.3, go to the right side and trim that out to bar 2. Go to the note at bar 2, right side, and trim that out to 2.3. We'll leave the 2.3 note as it is, and the 2.4 note, click on that, and trim that out to bar 4, just like the melody and harmony track. And that is This Christmas Part 1. Once you've done that, go up here and hit submit and send it off to me. So do that, and then we're going to get started with Part 2. All right, so let's get started with This Christmas Part 2. So here it is, This Christmas Part 2. We're putting in the harmony for Chris Brown's cover of This Christmas, and this is Part 2 of 3. Let's get started. Teacher's assignment. So we already have what we did in Part 1 in here, so let's take a listen. So we have 3 tracks. The red one is the melody and harmony. Our bass track is this purplish one, and then blue is our drum loop down here, R&B beat. So let's close our assignment brief by clicking on the green assignment brief button there. And now we're going to double click on melody/harmony, or you can just click on it and open up the MIDI editor at the bottom left. And we have this here, which is what we did in part 1. So let's take a look at what we're going to be adding in. So the top line is the most important line. It's the melody line. That's how you can tell what's the most important. That's what the melody is. It's the thing that stands out the most. And it's the thing that you hum, that you recognize the most of part of music, and that's the melody. And associated with the melody, not quite as strong, but very important, is the harmony, which is the thing that backs it up, that accompanies the melody, and just makes it sound better. So we're going to be putting a harmony notes underneath the melody notes by doing the same thing we did last time, by clicking on the grid and adding these notes in. Okay, so we're going to get started here. So this is where we're starting here. It's actually an F note. These first two notes are Fs on the piano. At bar 1, we're going to go down 1, 2, 3 blocks. So it's here, this B note on the piano, and then we're going to repeat it. And that lines up with the third note of the melody here at 1.2. At 1.2, we're going to add a note 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes below that. And then go over 2 blocks, and then down 1, 2 blocks. So those are the first 1, 2, 3, 4 notes of our harmony. Our very next block over, we're going to go down 1, 2, here to an F note. Stay on the same line and go skip 2 blocks over and add that same note at bar 2. Move my playhead here out of the way. Stay on that same line, skip 1 block, and add that note at 2.2. Okay. At 2.3, starting here, we'll go down 1, 2, 3. Very last 2 notes here. I'm going to start on the next block after this one and go down 1, 2, and then repeat it. And just like before, we have a couple notes that are short and we need to trim them out. So we're going to start here, this note after 1.3, click on that and trim that out to bar 2. And then the very last note, the one here at 2.4, click on that and trim that out to bar 4. Okay, and that is the harmony. We need to make this repeat because well, it happens multiple times. So when we get to part 3, we're going to see this happens, I think, like 4 or 5 times in a row. So let's just do it, repeat it 1 time. So what we're going to do is, well, there's a couple different ways we could do this. The first way would be to click on, let's say, the melody and harmony track, go to the top right to the repeat tool, the little circle with an arrow on it, and we can pull it out to bar 9, and we'll repeat exactly the same thing here all the way out to bar 9. And then do the same thing with the bass track. so that they both repeat all the way out to bar 9. And it goes along still with the bass, the drum set loop here, the blue one, R&B. Okay, so we can do it that way. What I would like you to do is, if you haven't done that yet, is just do a simple click, one click on the red track, hold down Control on your computer and tap C to copy, or you can right click on the red track and hit copy, move the playhead to bar 5, and either hit Control, hold down Control and tap V for victory, or let's move that back to bar 5 and right click afterwards and hit paste. So we have a second copy. Then do the same thing for bass, right click, copy, make sure the playhead's at bar 5, right click afterwards, paste. Now we have 2 copies. So once you have 2 copies of each, the melody and harmony and the bass, and you have all your notes in the harmony, the lower notes of this track, then you can go over and hit submit and send that off to me. And if you have any questions, you can message me on Schoology, and we will get started on part 3 shortly. All right, let's get started with This Christmas part 3. So let's get ourselves logged back in, edu.bandlab.com. Click login in the top right. Click on the Google G in the bottom left and add in your email address. So first name dot last name. So I'm going to put in my name here. And then when you log yourself in, it'll take you to the login page that you usually use for Schoology to log yourself in the rest of the way. Or if you're already logged into Schoology or something else like that, you might just get dropped off right to this page, which is fine. Okay, let's go to your class, either block 1, block 3, or block 5. I'm going to choose block 5 for this assignment. And here we go. This Christmas, part 3. Our final part of This Christmas will be adding in part of the vocal track of Chris Brown singing himself. So let's start the assignment, teacher's assignment, and let's get going. Now, in order to find something with just the vocal without like any of the other background stuff, the instruments, piano, drums, all that stuff, I had to find one that was like really heavily filtered. It doesn't sound great. I mean, it is him singing, it is the actual song, but they had to use all these filters to kind of get rid of all the background stuff, and it doesn't sound great, but it does its job for what we're working with today. So all right, so here's our assignment here. Let's close our assignment brief to have a little bit more room. And this is what we have so far. I'm going to mute the vocal track so we can just hear what we have. Okay, so that sounds pretty good. Sure. Let's take a look and see what we can do to complete this assignment. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to change the name of this instrument here, the red track. I'm going to click on that and call this melody / harmony, and then hyphen part 1. Then the blue track, I'm going to change that to baseline, BASS line. We're going to be using multiple copies of these. So you can see our vocal track, if we started right here at bar 1, would take us all the way out to about bar 15. We're actually going to start with this a little bit over. So we want to have music that goes all the way out to about bar 22, give or take. So we're actually going to be using copy and paste here. So I'm going to click on this melody harmony part 1 here. Either hold down Control and tap C, or right click on it and go to copy. Move over to bar 5. with the playhead, and either hold down Control and tap V for victory, or bar 5, right click afterwards and hit paste. So we'll have 2 copies, Melody Harmony Part 1, Melody Harmony Part 2. I'm going to change this where it says Melody Harmony Part 1 to Melody and Harmony Part 2, because they're going to be different sounding things, slight differences. Okay, our bass line, however, is going to be exactly the same throughout. So I'm going to go to the top right corner of the blue track, that circle icon, and I'm going to click on that and drag it out. And it's going to go all the way out to bar 21. That should do. So currently it should sound like this. Also, I do have the vocal line muted because it's not lined up properly quite yet. And then the bass continues on. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to change part of Melody Harmony Part 2. So I'm going to double click on Melody and Harmony Part 2. And that's going to bring up the MIDI editor. So our only change here is actually going to be these last 2 notes here of the harmony. So the bottom part between 6.3 and 6.4, these last 2 notes here. So right now they are this black note on the piano, and we need to move this lower. First off, let's grab the scroll bar on the far right and just drag it down a little bit so we have a little bit more space to work with in this window. So right now it's this E flat note on the piano, this black key. We're going to change them to C4. So we're going to click on that and drag it down 1, 2, 3. Now it lines up with C4, and do the same thing for this last long note, 1, 2, 3 bars down. So now the ending of part 2 is different than the ending of part 1. Now we're going to do some more copying and pasting, and we're going to be very careful with where we're putting the playhead so it goes into the right spots. So let's go to part 1. I'm going to right click on that, hit copy. Make sure again it's on part 1, not part 2. Drag the playhead to bar 9 and right click after it and hit paste. So now that part has come in here at bar 9, ending at bar 13. Now I'm going to skip 4 bars and go to bar 17, right click, paste. So now I have a blank spot in here at bar 13. Now I'm going to click on part 2, Melody Harmony Part 2, right click, copy, grab the playhead, move it to bar 13, right click, paste. So if I go back to the beginning and I can scroll over here, it goes part 1, part 2 at bar 5, part 1 at bar 9, part 2 at bar 13, and part 1 at bar 17. And this is what it sounds like currently. Now I'm going to unmute the vocal track and actually going to solo this vocal track. Again, just be aware that there's going to be some artifacts. It's going to be very tinny sounding, and just it's not going to sound great. But you will recognize it as Chris Brown's voice himself from the song. So
shake a hand, oh, come on, everybody shake a hand, oh, family, hey, we'll be together to make Jesus Christmas right. Yes, we will.
okay, and that's what we're working with. This actually, I think, is from towards the end of the actual song. But yeah, that's what we're working with. Now, we're going to be using our ears to line this up. So he sings a part here that is the same as the melody harmony part. So we're going to use that, the fact that he sings that, to line that up. And once that lines up, everything else will line up as well. So that is somewhere after bar 9. So let's turn that off. Let's solo the vocal track again. Actually, we can close this editor down here. We don't need that open anymore. So here we are, bar 9. It's something around here.
We'll be together to make Jesus Christmas right.
So there, we'll be together to make this Christmas bright, I think is what he says. We'll be together to make this Christmas bright.
We'll be together to make Jesus Christmas right.
Something like that. Okay, so we have to find exactly where that starts. So I'm going to look down here and just watch these swiggles, these splotches, these transients, as they're actually called. And so it starts right around. You can see there's this curved part here. It looks like, like the letter C on the outside of it here. So if we start right there,
we'll be together to make Jesus Christmas right.
So that is what we're going to do. We're going to have that part lined up with one of these melody harmony chunks. And we're going to use the melody harmony chunk at bar 13. So I'm going to put my mouse right on that transient right there with like that curved edge. And I'm going to drag that over to right around bar 13 so that it's pretty much lined up with the piano part. So let's unsolo that so they're all playing together.
We'll be together to make Jesus Christmas right.
Okay, that's pretty close, but it's not exact. So we're gonna have to really, really finesse this and use your ear and use your eyes to make this really lined up properly. The easiest thing to do is right underneath the submit button, of course, make sure that your assignment brief is closed, and click on the zoom in tool, the little magnifying glass with a plus. I'm going to do that twice so I can really, really zoom in on this. Now I'm going to make sure I use the scroll bar here on the bottom left so that I can see 13, 13.2, 13.3, 13.4.
We'll be together to make Jesus Christmas.
So what I see here is the melody and harmony thing starts right at 13, but these transients here are now after 13. So I want to take this and I'm going to slide it over. Well, let's see. If I moved it further away, this is what it would sound like.
We'll be together to make Jesus.
So I can hear now that that is too far. But if I line it up, I'll move the playhead so it's easier to see bar 13. And if I move this right so it begins right there at 13.
We'll be together to make Jesus right.
That's actually pretty good. What actually makes it sound even better is to just have it so that wheel, like that first like sound of wheel, we'll be together is right before 13. And that actually makes it sound like it's really locked.
Hey, we'll be together to make these Christmas time.
You don't make it too early because then it just sounds off again.
Hey, we'll be together to make these Christmas time.
So again, it helps to put your playhead right there at 13 and just have it be a little bit before 13. Oops.
Hey, we'll be together to make these Christmas time.
Okay, so once you have that lined up, I'm going to use the zoom out tool, which is right underneath submit. Go back out. Now listen from the very beginning, and everything should be lined up really, really well.
Shake a hand, oh, come on, everybody shake a hand, oh, baby, hey, we'll be together to make these Christmas time. Yes, we will.
Okay, and that is most of the work done. Starting to sound a lot better. So let's actually zoom out a little bit more underneath submit. We have all this extra stuff at the end after bar 21 that we don't need anymore. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take the playhead and move it over to bar 21. Let me actually zoom back in a little bit. Right there at 21, so that kind of shows us where everything ends. I'm going to make sure I click on the purple track, the R&B beat, and I'm going to slice it by hitting the S key. It's going to cut that into two parts, and I'm going to either hit backspace or delete on my keyboard. So again, either backspace works, or delete, either one. And then I'm going to keep the playhead there at 21, click on the green track, the vocal track, S to split. Make sure I click on the part after 21, backspace or delete. And that gets rid of all the extra stuff at the end.
We'll be together to make these Christmas time. Yes, we will.
So we're almost done here. Let's look at this R&B beat here at the end. It's it kind of ends abruptly because we're not doing the whole song. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a fade out here for this track. So on the left side of our screen, across from where it says add track here, right to the left, bottom left of the playback controls, is this button here. It says show/hide animation, or sorry, automation. Has two dots with a couple little lines connecting them. We're going to click on that and it's going to add these automation lines. So we're going to make a fade out on these top three tracks, everything except for the vocal line. So let's get started with the purple track. So right at the end of the vocal, so right here, it's somewhere halfway between 17 and 19. Or if you're zoomed in a little bit, we can see that a little bit better. So right around a little bit after 18, somewhere between 18 and 19. Let's click on that white line on the purple R&B drum loop, and it's going to make this little dot. So now we're going to go to over to around bar 20 and click another dot. If it moves a little bit, that's fine. And then we're going to add one more dot at the very end of the track. If it moves a little bit, that's fine too. So we're going to take, well, let's hear what it sounds like normally. Okay, so now This first dot is going to be where it normally is. So it says 0.0 decibels, no change. This second dot, I'm going to click on that, and let's bring it down to, I guess, -8 decibels. And then this last dot at the very end, we're going to click all the way down to the bottom to -infinity decibels. And if I solo this track now, we should hear a little bit of a fade out. There we go. We have a fade out on that track. And we're going to add a little bit of a fade out on the melody harmony track and the bass track as well. So let's put a dot in the same spot, like a little bit after bar 18. And then put one here at bar 20. And let's just drag that one down, say to -14. That should probably work. Let's see what that sounds like. Oh, I have to solo that one so I can hear it. Let's move that all the way down to -31. There we go. And then we'll do the same thing with the bass track. So click, make a dot a little bit after 18, put a dot right around 20, and I'll move that one down to -30, -40, something around there. And put them all together. We should have a nice, nice fade out.
Yes, we will.
And there we go. And that is the entire assignment. So once you've done all that, you can go up here and hit submit. Thank you for your efforts. And if you have any questions, you can always send me a